it's a shame, really. It's a shame. It's a shame to psychology. It's a shame to the world, really, that this topic isn't more widely known or understood, because it's something that affects a lot of people. Hi everyone, hello again. In this video, I'm going to be talking about schizoid traits as a personality disorder and as adaptations to adverse or difficult childhood experiences. There are some people who think that it should be a disorder. Other people think it should be labelled as schizoid adaptation. Is it a disorder? Is it adaptations? In my opinion, I would say that it can be both, depending on someone's level of functioning. And also there is an innate component in some people. That means that even if they aren't exposed to particularly adverse or difficult childhood situations, that they're likely to develop these traits anyway as a consequence of their neurological disposition when they're born. I think that the aspect of schizoid sensitivity is an important issue to address, because there's several reasons why a baby may be born more highly sensitive than average or what is considered to be normal. For example, if their mother was going through excessive stress during her pregnancy, it could be because she wasn't prepared to have the baby. It could be because she was living in difficult circumstances herself during her pregnancy. Her cortisol levels are going to rise, and that can have significant impact for the development of the baby in the womb. And the child, as a consequence of this, can be born with a high level of sensitivity compared to normal. I think that when you think from an evolutionary perspective, it kind of makes sense. Because the mother's stressed, it's sending signals to the child, through chemistry, that you're going to come out into a stressful environment. And so the sensitivity of the child, in some ways, it sort of it prepares them to be more attuned to their environment. And with the development of schizoid traits, it's like the sensitivity itself causes the withdrawal of the infant and the detachment from the outside world, and creates that buffer zone. And in that sense, the child has a level of protection against whatever environmental conditions they're in. There's also, it's not scientifically proven, but I've also seen some, basically from personal accounts of people who identify as having schizoid traits, that they were particularly quiet babies. And if you imagine if a baby is withdrawn and detached from the outside world and not being as influenced by stimuli as a consequence, they may be less likely to cry. And being less likely to cry in a stressful environment could actually save a baby's life. If you think back to primitive times, when there were significant threats in the environment, and crying of a baby could cause the mother or people around them to lose their life. For example, if there was like a wild animal in the vicinity and the baby cries, it's going to attract attention to the people of that group. Now, it's not all about evolutionary history, and this is just like my personal views on this, but there definitely is a sensitivity component in a lot of people with schizoid traits, people who I think are primarily schizoid, that were more or less always going to develop a schizoid defenses and schizoid traits as a consequence of their sensitivity, regardless of their parenting or regardless of their environment, because they're just too sensitive to be able to really have a full sensory relationship with the external world. In a sense, that is separate from schizoid adaptations. Because as I said, the adaptations are more of a response to adverse childhood conditions. And with the adaptations, the child, is in a situation where they're unable to form a healthy attachment with their parent. They're unable to express themselves freely. They haven't had the structure or the nurturing to develop a healthy emotional relationship with the world, the outside world, or to develop their emotions to the degree where they can express emotions normally. And this is the restricted range of expression. So this is the innate component and the adaptations put side by side. To add an extra layer of complexity into the situation, there are people who have an innate, what I believe to be an innate predisposition to developing schizoid traits, who also grow up in environments that aren't really fitting to nurturing or developing their inner self. And in these situations, this is where we get, well, there is a spectrum within schizoid personality, but this is where we get an interesting difference in development, because you get one person innately sensitive, born into a reasonably okay environment, and they can't really connect with other people because they have the detachment and the withdrawal, but they're not really under any particular duress, or they're not being negatively provoked by the environment. And then you get another person in the same situation, but now they're having to deal with perhaps abuse or just really difficult circumstances around them as a consequence. It could be a consequence of their parents, or it could be a consequence of maybe going to school and having conflicts with other people. So all these different things are going to affect how a schizoid individual develops along their personal path. With the adaptations themselves, a person could be even neurotypical, then put into an environment that doesn't suit their needs for personal development, and develop schizoid traits. What I'm trying to show here is that there are a lot of different pathways to developing schizoid traits, and it does include adaptations. However, why the adaptations are made, is it because of innate sensitivity? Is it because of adverse childhood environment, or is it a combination of both? Depends from person to person. It varies with individuals. And then with the aspects of the schizoid personality disorder, now people can say that it's a natural adaptation to make, so it shouldn't be called a disorder, because we all need to adapt to our environments, whether we develop schizoid traits or whether a person is neurotypical or otherwise. Everybody makes adaptations because it's part of us developing some sort of relationship with the world around us. And in this sense, people will say, then why should it be categorized as a personality disorder? I would say that when it falls into the category of personality disorder is when a person usually has significant difficulties in functioning to the point where they feel that they can't live the quality of life that they want to live, or when a person becomes so mentally unhealthy as a consequence of making these adaptations that they find themselves in a position where they are engaging in negative behaviors that are either going to harm themselves or other people. Now, I'm not saying that everyone with schizoid personality disorder is going to harm themselves or others, because as I said before, it could just be a difficulty in functioning in the world enough to meet everyday tasks or to get along with other people in a way that facilitates a person's progress and enables a person to feel comfortable. So within a disorder category, there's two types. There are people that have significant difficulty functioning, and then people that fall into a very mentally unhealthy state that could potentially cause harm to themselves or others. The problem with the word schizoid personality disorder is that when people think about it, sometimes they think of like the worst case scenarios. Like they might be thinking about like certain serial killers that have been diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder. And then what happens is when people are a bit ignorant, they want to tarnish the whole group. They want to think that, oh, people with schizoid personality disorder are more likely to be dangerous, when the dangerous people are a tiny percentage of that group. There are dangerous people who are neurotypical. There are dangerous people with other personality disorders. So it's not particularly a schizoid thing at all. And I can understand why some people don't want to be considered as being disordered when they've made schizoid adaptations and they're managing to live their life to a reasonable standard, and there isn't anything that significantly negative enough for them to constitute it as being a disorder, because their functioning is reasonably okay. What we see really in the term schizoid personality disorder is that there are like many different manifestations of it, and also with schizoid adaptations there are many different manifestations of it. So it's a difficult topic really sometimes to talk about, in a sense that when you're talking about schizoid traits, because there's so many different manifestations, what applies to one person isn't going to apply to another person. But what fundamentally I think unites everyone who has schizoid traits, who either identifies with schizoid personality disorder or having schizoid adaptations, what unites everyone is that there is emotional detachment and withdrawal taking place, and there is a different type of relationship with the external world than a neurotypical person would have. I'm going to talk more on this topic about our relationship with the external world and the challenges that it brings due to our functioning, but I'm not going to go into depth now. I think that it's a shame, really. It's a shame to psychology, it's a shame to the world, really, that this topic isn't more widely known or understood, because it's something that affects a lot of people. And also, there are some people, as a consequence of their challenges with schizoid traits, who could benefit from targeted support, like in a similar way to people with autism can benefit from targeted support. And autism is like so widely known, but with schizoid personality disorder or adaptations, or schizoid traits, it's not known. And so a person can be going through specific challenges linked to these traits, and there really isn't really much support or organizations or anything really in place in society set up for schizoids. I think the fact that there is nothing in society in place to help people with schizoid traits specifically is a disgrace, to say the least, because it seems like every other personality disorder has got greater representation than schizoid personality disorder, and sometimes some schizoid traits or adaptations can result in significant difficulty in functioning. And also we have like specific needs for specific needs, like when we are going to engage in social environments, when we are going to engage in the workplace. And this is something that really just, I think, is not recognized enough. In any case, it's like, I suppose it's almost like we are like the invisible people. And yeah, on one hand, maybe we kind of want to be invisible, but at the same time, when we need support or help or recognition or whatever, it's just not there. So yeah, schizoid personality disorder versus schizoid adaptations. I wanted to make the point that there are different ways of developing schizoid traits with different levels of functioning, and I'm interested in hearing your views on whether you think that schizoid personality should be regarded as a disorder or as adaptations, or even just as like just a natural way of being and just a different way of being from other people. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, and yeah, bye for now.